The most confusing time travel paradoxes in Star Trek. The city on the edge of forever. A time and moral dilemma. What happens? The Enterprise encounters a mysterious, ancient time portal known as the Guardian of Forever, basically an intergalactic time travel kiosk with a cryptic attitude. When a drugged-out McCoy stumbles through the portal, he accidentally alters history, causing the Enterprise to vanish from existence. To fix the timeline, Kirk and Spock follow McCoy back to 1930s Earth, where they meet Edith Keeler, a kind-hearted social worker who, as luck, or tragedy, would have it, is the key to everything. Kirk, of course, falls in love with her. Because if there's one constant in time and space, it's that James T. Kirk will develop strong romantic feelings under highly inconvenient circumstances. But here's the catch. Edith is supposed to die in a car accident. If she survives, she leads a powerful pacifist movement that delays U.S. entry into World War II. This gives Nazi Germany time to develop nuclear weapons first, leading to a very different, much darker future. The paradox. If Kirk saves Edith, she prevents the U.S. from stopping Hitler in time, causing catastrophic changes to history. If Kirk lets her die, time resets to the proper course, but he loses the woman he loves. Why it's confusing? This isn't just a time travel confusion, it's an ethical nightmare. Kirk has to watch someone he loves die, knowing that if he acts, he dooms the entire future. It's a rare moment where Kirk, the man who always finds a way, realizes that sometimes there is no third option. Spock, in his direct manner, sums it up with the crushingly simple, "He knows, Doctor. He knows." And just like that, Edith is gone, time is restored, and Kirk is left forever haunted by what had to be done. The takeaway. This episode delivers one of the most heartbreaking moments in Star Trek and shows that sometimes, even Kirk can't cheat fate. It's one of the clearest examples of the fixed point in time concept, long before Doctor Who made it a recurring theme. The Guardian of Forever remains one of Star Trek's most intriguing and underused time travel mechanics. And most importantly, if your best friend is a time-traveling space doctor, maybe don't let him run around unmedicated. Yesterday's Enterprise, the alternate timeline that fixed itself. What happens? One moment, everything is normal aboard the Enterprise D. The next, reality itself shifts, and suddenly the crew finds themselves on a battle-hardened warship in the middle of a brutal war with the Klingons. What caused this? A rift in time has pulled the Enterprise C, a ship from 22 years in the past, into the present. Problem is, the Enterprise C was supposed to be destroyed defending a Klingon outpost. Its disappearance altered history, creating a Federation locked in a losing war. The only one who seems to notice something is wrong? Guinan. She doesn't know how she knows, but she can sense that reality shouldn't be this way. And when Guinan tells you something's wrong with time, you listen. So, Picard makes the tough call. The Enterprise C must go back to its death even, though that means erasing everything and everyone in this reality. The Enterprise C returns, history resets, and just like that, the war-torn Federation timeline is wiped from existence. The paradox. The Enterprise C was always destroyed in the past. So how did anyone in the alternate timeline remember a different version? Guinan somehow retains knowledge of the erased timeline. How? Why? Is she operating outside of time? Does the war-torn Federation timeline still exist somewhere? Or was it fully overwritten? What happened to the alternate Picard and crew? Did their consciousnesses merge with their normal selves? Or were they completely erased? Why it's confusing. This episode plays with the idea of self-correcting time, but it raises a huge philosophical question. If an entire version of reality disappears, did it ever exist at all? Guinan's unexplained awareness of time only deepens the mystery. How does she remember something that was erased? And if she can, does that mean others subconsciously remember too? And then there's Tasha Yar. In the original timeline, she died a meaningless death, but in the alternate one, She chooses to go back with the Enterprise C, where she's captured by the Romulans and becomes part of a completely different timeline, leading to her daughter, Sela, existing in the present. So, does that mean the alternate timeline did happen in some way? The takeaway. This is one of TNG's best time travel episodes, balancing high-stakes action with mind-bending paradoxes. Guinan remains a mystery, proving once again that if she says something's wrong with time, you don't argue. The Enterprise C's sacrifice proves that sometimes history fights to stay on track, even if it means erasing an entire version of reality. And finally, if your timeline suddenly turns into a dystopian war zone, maybe check if a starship from the past just showed up. Time's Arrow. The Bootstrap Paradox. What happens? Nothing shakes up a nice quiet day in Starfleet like finding your friend's severed head in an archaeological dig. While investigating a cave under San Francisco, the crew discovers Data's head, buried for 500 years. This is understandably disturbing to everyone, especially Data, who now knows he's destined to lose his head, literally, in the 19th century. But how did it get there? Cue a time travel adventure featuring Mark Twain, 19th century aliens stealing human life energy, and Data playing poker with historical figures. Eventually, Data and some of the crew are thrown back in time, where, surprise, surprise, he loses his head, leaving it behind to be found centuries later. The rest of him returns to the future, where Geordi reattaches his 500-year-old head like it's just another Tuesday. The paradox. Data's head only exists in the past because future Data left it there, but Data only time-traveled because his head was found. Who built Data's head in the first place? It exists in a closed loop with no true origin. If the crew had never discovered the head, would Data still have gone back in time? Why it's confusing. This is the ultimate bootstrap paradox, where something exists without ever being created. Think of it like this. If you go back in time and give Shakespeare a copy of his plays, and he publishes them, who actually wrote them? The information has no point of creation. Data's head is trapped in the same logic. It's only there because it was always there. And let's not forget the existential nightmare Data must have faced. Imagine finding out that your severed head has been waiting underground for half a millennium. And no matter what you do, you're fated to make that happen. That's some serious robotic dread. The takeaway. This is one of Star Trek's purest examples of a self-sustaining time loop. Data takes it surprisingly well, proving once again that he's far calmer about his mortality than his human friends. The fact that Geordi just plugs in the ancient head and it works fine raises some hilarious questions about Data's durability. And finally, if you ever find your own head in an archaeological dig, maybe take some time off. Endgame. Janeway's double time crime. What happens? After 7 long years stranded in the Delta Quadrant, Captain Janeway finally gets her crew home, but only with the help of her own future self, Admiral Janeway, who literally rewrites history to make it happen. In an alternate future, Voyager took decades to return to Earth, suffering countless losses along the way. Admiral Janeway, now older, guilt-ridden, and tired of Starfleet's rules, decides to go rogue. Her plan? Time travel back to help her younger self get home faster. Give her future technology that Voyager was never supposed to have. Completely change history, no matter the consequences. And guess what? It works. Voyager takes a shortcut, blasts through the Borg, and returns to Earth early. The paradox. If Admiral Janeway changes history, then her own future never happens. So where did she come from? If she never exists, she can't help past Janeway. So how did Voyager get home early? Did she just erase herself from existence, or does she now live in a separate timeline? Why it's confusing. This is the ultimate self-annihilating time loop, where a person erases their own timeline, yet somehow their actions still happen. It's like a time traveler going back to prevent their own birth, but somehow still being there to do it. Janeway wipes out the future she came from, yet the events she set in motion remain intact. And what happened to the original Voyager crew who lived through decades in the Delta Quadrant? Did they just blink out of existence? Or does that timeline still exist somewhere with a missing Admiral Janeway? The takeaway. Admiral Janeway is so powerful, even time paradoxes bow to her will. This is Voyager's biggest time travel paradox, but everyone just kind of rolls with it. The moral? If you don't like how things turned out, just time travel and fix it. And finally, if Starfleet ever gives you the rank of Admiral, expect some shady time travel shenanigans in your future. Discovery. The time loop that started before it began. What happens? Nothing says Star Trek like a good old-fashioned time paradox embedded in explosions and high-stakes drama. In the Discovery Season 2 finale, the crew is led by 7 mysterious signals appearing across the galaxy. These signals guide them toward crucial events, all orchestrated by a mysterious Red Angel. Turns out, the Red Angel is Michael Burnham, from the future. Using a time-traveling suit, she creates the signals to ensure the events that already happened actually happen. If your head is spinning, you're not alone. The paradox. The Discovery crew follows signals from the future, which they later create themselves. The Red Angel suit's signals had always happened, meaning the future was influencing the past before the future even existed. If Burnham never sent the signals, how did they appear in the first place? Where did the idea originate? The plan only exists because it was always there, a classic bootstrap paradox. Why it's confusing. This is another chicken or the egg situation, except the chicken is a starship and the egg is a time-traveling spacesuit. There's no original cause for the Red Angel's intervention. It's a loop with no logical starting point. The signals exist only because they were always meant to. And let's not forget, if Burnham hadn't received the signals, she wouldn't have known to send them. But if she didn't send them, how did she receive them? Congratulations, we've broken causality. The takeaway. Discovery fully commits to time paradoxes. Logic be damned. The Red Angel's signals had no origin, making this a self-sustaining loop. Starfleet really needs better time travel policies. And finally, if you ever receive a message from the future, chances are you're the one who sent it. Creepy, yes? Cause and effect. What happens? The Enterprise is going about its usual business when, boom, it explodes. Then, suddenly, everyone is back at the beginning of the day like nothing happened. Except, things feel off. Déjà vu, repeating conversations, small inconsistencies. But before anyone can figure it out, boom, the Enterprise explodes again, and again, and again. Turns out the crew is trapped in a temporal causality loop, reliving the same doomed events for 17.4 days. Every time, the ship collides with another vessel, the USS Bozeman, and every time it results in total destruction. Rinse and repeat. The catch? Each reset wipes their memories. The paradox. How did they ever escape? If their memories reset each time, how did they even know they were stuck? Data eventually figures out how to send himself a subconscious clue before the reset, leading to the moment where he finally makes the right choice. But did this loop always happen? Or was there an original timeline where they got stuck the first time? If so, who broke it first? Why it's insane? It's basically Groundhog Day, but with explosions. Every loop is identical until tiny variations start creeping in, making you wonder, did they ever escape? Or are they still stuck in another loop we don't see? The Bozeman was from 90 years in the past, meaning its crew had no idea they were even in a time loop. Imagine their captain's surprise when Starfleet tells him he's nearly a century late to his last mission. The takeaway. Time loops are a bad way to spend 2 weeks. If you ever feel like you've had the same conversation 3 times in a row, pay attention. When in doubt, always trust Data to leave himself cryptic clues in ways only he understands. The Kelvin timeline's infinite loophole. What happens? Romulan mining captain Nero falls into a black hole and, instead of being crushed into oblivion, pops out 129 years in the past. His first act? Destroy the USS Kelvin, which just so happens to be carrying James T. Kirk's dad. This completely alters history, creating what we now call the Kelvin timeline. But here's the kicker. Spock, also gets sucked into the black hole and arrives decades later in this new, altered reality. Meaning, the original Star Trek timeline still happened, and this new timeline exists alongside it. The paradox. Did Nero actually erase the Prime universe, or just make a duplicate? If the Kelvin timeline is a branch, does the original timeline continue on elsewhere? Star Trek canon says yes, but the movie never addresses it. Is Prime Spock now stranded in a universe that wasn't supposed to be? Why it's insane. It's basically a cosmic glitch, a black hole that didn't just mess with time, but also with the mechanics of parallel reality. Spock, Prime, remembers a future that no longer exists in his new reality. Imagine knowing what's supposed to happen, but being powerless to make it so. It implies a multiverse where both timelines can coexist, meaning Kirk, Prime, and Kirk, Kelvin, could technically both be out there somewhere. The takeaway. The Kelvin timeline was basically Star Trek's way of rebooting without erasing 40-plus years of canon. Time travel is one issue, but accidentally creating an alternate reality just by showing up is next-level chaos. Spock, Prime, lived long enough to see himself become a dimensional anomaly. Children of Time. What happens? The Defiant encounters a weird energy field, classic Star Trek problem, and crash lands on a planet. Turns out, this already happened, 200 years ago. The crew's past selves got stuck in a time loop, couldn't escape, and instead built an entire colony of descendants who now greet them as long-lost ancestors. The paradox. To restore the original timeline, the crew must let the crash happen, ensuring their descendants' existence, but if they avoid crashing, they erase their own descendants from history. So how did their descendants exist in the first place? The Heartbreaker. The colony is thriving, a full society built from the Defiant crew. Kira is dead in this timeline, which Odo, future, refuses to accept. So what does he do? He sabotages the ship to make sure they never crash, wiping out thousands of people, including a very personal history with Kira. Why it's insane? It's a self-erasing family tree, like a time-traveling you-were-never-born message. The Defiant crew remembers the colony, but it never existed. Odo basically commits genocide in the name of love and restoring the proper timeline. The takeaway. Time travel doesn't care about your feelings. Even when you meet your own future grandkids, history still finds a way to erase them. Sometimes, the most painful paradox is knowing a life existed and choosing to erase it anyway.